for this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live. Joining me tonight, as always, Eric Larson and Dieter Staudinger with our technical support. And I was on the impression that our roaming flight attendant was going to be here, but maybe she'll jump in later there, Eric. And we have a special guest tonight. We're really excited about Patricia Mancha from the TSA. Never had anybody on from the TSA, and I already learned a couple of things just in the short time we were chatting with her before here. So we're just gonna go through here. As you all know, or maybe if it's your first time, Fearless Flight Live is our way of offering you a weekly program where you can come, and if you're afraid to fly, if you know somebody's afraid to fly, or you just like talking about airplanes and in the commercial airline industry, we're happy to have you. We try to meet needs of anybody out there. Please, if you're on live here, feel free to enter a comment in either on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, wherever you might be watching us from. And if you have questions, we love to hear those, and you can leave your questions at Captain Ron at FearlessFlight.com. I'm sure Dieter will either put that in the chat now or later. The other thing we like to talk about is we have a special Facebook group, private group, called Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather, and that's for anybody who qualifies by virtue of their fear of flying or knowing somebody who does. And we're up way over 1,000 strong now, and it's a great place for support. And you'll find people in all stages of their fear of flying, either just newbies, people that are in there working on it, and people who have successes. And so you can give and receive support, and we're really proud of the group and all the participants. So if you're watching, like I said, live or watching the replay, feel free to put comments in there, and we try to get to those. So I want a couple of things I wanted to talk about real quick here. Just mention Hurricane Ian. Looks like it's gonna come across the Florida. The last I heard, I don't know about you, Eric, but it said somewhere around the Tampa Bay area, I think. And yes. Who knows how strong it'll be? It was it cooled down to a 3, but I think it's heading over open water, and they pick up steam once they. My brother was
watching. He says slightly south of Tampa Bay.
Okay. And the reason we mentioned it, other than it being in the news, is because everybody's worried whenever there's weather in an area. What does that mean? And Eric and I try to pretty much reassure you that if the pilots ain't going, you ain't going, and if they don't go, you don't have to worry about it, because they're not going to take chances, because they're up in the front of the airplane and are just as concerned as you are about their own safety. I just wanted to say a couple of shout outs for a couple of people. I've been Ellie Ricci is one of our Clear for Takeoff 201 students, and I did some individual coaching with her this week, and she, in fact, I put it in there because she's going to be flying from Minnesota, not too far from where you are, Eric, up there in close to East Snowshoe, I think is
East Overshoe.
East Overshoe. I thought it was yeah. Anyway, and she's going to be flying from there to Seattle. And she said, "What about it? I heard it was going to rain." So Ellie, just stay tuned. It's going to be okay, and we're going to talk about that. And as luck would have it, I just did a coaching session with Christy Gosha yesterday. Christy, same kind of thing. She was coming out of Phoenix, and she flew to Seattle this morning. And she said, "I want to thank you very much for your help. I tried the things you suggested, and they helped. I was able to pre-board, met the pilot and flight attendant, did the breathing, and set the timer in the water when we had some turbulence. I only had to do it for 2 minutes, and then it was smooth again. I really appreciate all your help." And so what she was talking about, the timer in the water, I suggested to her, she said she had a lot of anticipatory anxiety. She would worry about, first, is there going to be turbulence? Second, how long is it going to last? So I said, okay, when you get in the airplane, after you meet the pilots and you go back and take your seat, and just as soon as you get airborne, get yourself a bottle of water when you go through one of the newsstands there before you get on board, and lower your tray table on takeoff, set the bottle of water up there, and then set the timer for 2 minutes. It doesn't matter how long you set the timer for, and just watch the water. And if you get into turbulence, then click the timer and see how long the turbines last. And does it really control the turbines? Hell no, but it'll give you something to put on your mind, and you can watch the water bottle and see that it's barely moving in there, and it'll give you a little bit more realistic sense of not to worry about it. Okay, so that's just a little.
Which works great if you get thirsty.
What's that?
That works great. That works great unless you get thirsty.
Absolutely. And let's see, one other thing, and want to do a shout out to Marcia Schaefer. Marcia's done a lot of coaching, and she always lets me know what she's doing. And she said tomorrow she's flying to Denver on Southwest. She's coming back on Monday, this weekend, and done a lot of preparation. Marcia just worked really hard, and I've watched her just make big leaps and bounds in her fear and all that. And this is her second airplane trip since she went through the class. She's going to fly with us, I believe, on the October 22nd Clear for Takeoff 301 class, which Dieter will put the links in there. But we want to remind anybody, if you're going to be in and around the Los Angeles area on October 15th, you may want to join the graduation flight over there. I'm gonna fly over. We're gonna go from Burbank to Sacramento and back, and then we're gonna make the same class out of Phoenix on October 22nd from here to Burbank and back. So don't forget about those things. It's a great opportunity to fly with a group of like-minded people and really kick your fear in the butt there. So,
and I have the link. The link is in chat, Ron. Tracy wants to know if you have a list of questions, I think, that she sent you. Is that correct?
From Tracy?
Yes.
If she sent them within about the last 2 hours, haven't seen them yet, but I'll take it for granted. Okay. Tracy knows how to get a hold of me, so I'll watch for them. Okay.
All right.
And cool. Maybe I'll sneak over there if I get a chance while Patricia's talking or about Patty's talking. So, all right. Anything else before we bring on our guest?
I think the most important thing is the 301 flights. The links to both the September or October 15 and October 22nd. Right. They're both here in the chat. So if you're in the Phoenix or LA area, then this is a great opportunity, like Captain Ron said. And don't wait.
If you have any interest, if you think you're wanting to fly, get the tickets, because they won't get any cheaper. When we're now within 30 days, and they'll be more expensive as we get closer there. Yeah. So okay, stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of new content coming out in the 201, the Clear for Takeoff 201 class, and some interesting things on the membership, which we alluded to last week, and all that. So lots of stuff coming out there. So now I'd like to introduce, I wrote the folks out at the Phoenix airport here, and about trying to bring some more experts onto the show here. And one of the people they referred me to was Patricia Mancha. She says she goes by Patty, and she is, I'm going to let her talk about her role and everything. And so Patty, if you want to join us, and one of the things I got to disclose, I used to fly T-38s in the Air Force. That was my primary job, teaching other students. And just in the moment, or the few minutes we got to talk to, Patty told me she has had a ride in a T-38 and she did not get sick. So let me tell you, this is a person that's got my respect, because anybody who can fly without the training that I had and not get sick, you got to have a special stomach, I guess. And your mom told you that, right, Patty?
That's right. I have the stomach of a musician, I'm proud to say.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. I really appreciate you coming on. This is just above and beyond for us. And so why don't you explain your role, and with the TSA, and a little bit about how you got here. For maybe we'll get some kids watching, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to do that when I get out."
Sure. Okay. So what I do is I'm a media spokesperson for the Transportation Security Administration, and what that entails. People always ask my mother what I do, and I've been doing this for about 30 years. And my mother says, well, she's in public relations. And they said, well, what does that mean exactly? And my mom says, public relations. She still doesn't really get it after 30 years. Right. So what I like to tell people is it's kind of like being a teacher, only you teach about the agency that you're working or represent, you're working for or represent. I actually was a high school teacher after I graduated college. And although I really enjoyed it, it wasn't quite fulfilling or what I wanted to do. And I had done a little bit of PR work when I was in college, and it just seemed like the skies opened up, the birds were singing. And although I've had opportunities to do something different, this is what I really enjoy doing. I love it. And so for anybody who doesn't quite know what they want to do when they grow up, I would recommend they look into being a media spokesperson. It's fantastic. It's fun. It's never the same twice. I've gotten to do things that most people only dream about. Visited remote Alaskan islands, gone to the White House, met all kinds of crazy, fun people. But really, I think the best thing that I do is that I help the public at large learn information about the agencies that I represent, and sometimes try to help people just make their life a little better. So in working with the Border Patrol, we really, I was instrumental in helping people and migrants trying to cross the border learn about dangers, droughts that were causing people to die because they didn't have water. Working with FEMA, I was able to help disaster survivors know where they could get help from the federal government following a disaster. Working with the USDA, I was able to really help to promote the Women and Infants and Children feeding program, the school lunch program, feeding for elderly people, food programs on Indian reservations. And now with the TSA, I really try to help people understand what they can expect at the airport, their rights when they're flying, and the things that they can do to make their experience at the airport a little better. And that's how I ended up here with Captain Fearless.
Good. And so when you say you work for TSA, you really the department is Homeland Security, right? So do you still work do you work exclusively now with the TSA, or do you still work with like the Border Patrol and things like that as well?
No, I work exclusively for TSA. I was actually with the Immigration Service when it became part of Homeland Security. So February 28th, we brought down our flag from the Department of Justice, and March 1st, which was a Saturday, someone put up a flag for DHS. And that's how DHS was created after 9/11. And, TSA was born out of the attacks of 9/11. So the main focus for us is to really prevent another attack like 9/11, to secure the transportation systems of the United States, not just airplanes, but, all kinds of the transportation system in general. So we take that job very seriously. And it's really important to us that we help people be safe when they fly.
Okay. And I've been through the TSA more times than I've got sense because of my career and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I'm embarrassed to say is I've never really stopped and asked anybody, does the TSA recognize fear of flying as a thing? Do they so if you got somebody who's afraid to fly, do they do anything for them or talk a little bit about that if you can?
Well, that's a great question. For us, we recognize that some people feel stressed when they come to our checkpoint. Right. Some people just feel like I'm being rushed. There's too many things that are being asked of me. Why do I need to remove my shoes? They're limiting my liquids, etc. So, our officers are actually required during their training to pat each other down, to do the secondary screening, to go through everything that they do at the checkpoint themselves, so that they put themselves in the traveler's shoes. That's right. One of the first things that we do. Additionally, we recognize that there's like mothers with breast milk who have certain, they have certain requirements when they travel. People who are transgendered, people with disabilities, different people who come to the checkpoint have different feelings and thoughts when they come through. So for us, it's really important to put ourselves in those shoes. Now, when it comes to fear of flying, one of the things that we do, or one of the programs that we have, is called TSA Cares. And TSA Cares is a program where travelers can sign up to 72 hours before their flight. And they simply sign themselves up. They and their family get to have a screening process that is a little bit more private. They don't have to go through the checkpoint, but they still have to be checked. So don't think that by signing up for this, you don't have to be checked or screened.
Right.
You do, but you get to do it in a more private setting. So for someone with a disability, for someone who might have a fear of flying, for a child with autism, this makes all the difference because it helps to reduce their stress. They don't have to explain anything. The officers are trained to really help people have a less stressful experience.
Wow. And I did not know anything about that even after all these years. So let me ask you this question. I do a monthly class. Southwest lets me use an airplane. So this Saturday night at the Phoenix airport, I will be having we call it Clear for Takeoff 101. And we'll be going through that. We'll be going through the through the security, and we get escort pass and all that. Would it be appropriate to contact somebody there and just, they wouldn't have to, we wouldn't all require a special, screening or anything because it's late on a Saturday night. So it's not that busy anyway. But one of the things I was thinking about, if there was anybody that was there, could you even just highlight it for the people? Certainly I'll talk about it now. So where would someone sign up or how would how you said within 72 hours, how would they make that known that they were in that category?
So I did provide the 800 number to your partner there, but they can call. There's a phone number they can call. It's 855-787-2227. And that's from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, and holidays and weekends from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. to register. So they can simply call that number.
Eastern time, Central time?
That's Eastern time. Eastern time.
Okay.
Yeah. So they can call that number, register, and they basically need to have their flight information because obviously it's based on where you're flying from. As far as this Saturday at Phoenix, I can definitely put you in connection with the right person and we can see what we can do.
Just to have somebody just come to the class and just say a few words about it, because like I said, I didn't know that. That's extraordinary because we do have a lot of people that we have people that have never flown, and then we have people who haven't flown since the TSA has been implemented and all that. So, so I was going to ask about special tips and stuff. So that kind of covers what they can do in advance if they're afraid. Anything to be, the liquids and all that stuff, just be aware of that.
So another thing that people can do prior to flying, and we find that this helps especially children, but people who have a fear of flying, it might help them as well, is to go to the TSA YouTube channel. Okay. And there's videos, there's many videos, but there's videos of what you can expect at the checkpoint. And that way people can know these are the things that when you get to the airport, you can expect. Okay. So that's really a way to help you walk through the experience visually before you're even there. Now, in addition to that, there's just a couple of tips that we share with everybody, but I think especially if you want to reduce your stress, make sure that you arrive early. If you're flying domestically, 2 hours before your flight, and if you're flying internationally, 3 hours before your flight. Another thing to remember is that if you're flying from a smaller airport, especially early in the morning between 6 a.m., 5 a.m. to about 9, 10 a.m., those are the busy periods. So many people think like, oh, it's only like 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, I don't have to worry. Those are the times that most of the commuters are flying to connect to other airports. So make sure that you really arrive on time. The other thing is you can, I do it all the time, and I think everybody should do it, is contact your airline before you even leave your house to make sure that your flight is on time, that everything is as it should, and that you know the terminal to which you're going. I lived in Dallas-Fort Worth for a long time. And when people would arrive there, if I was going to pick them up, they would say, I'm flying American. And I would say, yes, that's good, but what terminal? And they would say, oh, it's American. And I would say, okay, when you get there, you're going to know that there's going to be they're going to tell you a number or a letter, and you let me know so that I can pick you up. And, you know, most people fly out of small airports think, oh, it's just American, or it's just United or Southwest. No, when you're flying from a large airport, make sure that you prepare and that you know your gate, your flight number, your information, so that you have all that ready. When you get to the checkpoint and you get to the officer who's going to check your ticket and your documents and everything else, have everything in hand. Don't be fumbling through your purse or your wallet or anything when you get to the ticket checkpoint. Have them in your hand and be ready to hand them to the officer. That also helps to reduce stress. And those are just little things that you can do before you even arrive.
Yeah.
Once you get, and this is once you get to the checkpoint, but really it happens before you arrive. We were talking earlier about gun finds at airports. We're finding lots and lots of people are bringing guns in places like El Paso and Austin. They have already surpassed the number of guns that they found in carry-on luggage from last year. And we still have more than 3 to go. So, and the number one excuse we hear is, I didn't know it was in my bag.
Yeah.
So before you start packing, empty out your bag and make sure it's empty, your carry-on, so that you don't bring prohibited items, because that will add to your stress level. So knives, pepper spray, guns, of course, but even full-size liquids. Liquids are, you can only bring 3.4 ounces of liquids in a 1 quart container, a 1 quart plastic bag. And the reason that we limit liquids is that someone tried to introduce liquid explosives in a soda bottle. So please be aware of that. Wear shoes that you can easily take off and put on. Some people bring maybe boots that have lots of laces, and they have to host and things lace up, and then they have a hard time taking them off and putting them on. So make sure that you have shoes that are easy to put on and take off. The reason
Unless
we
you're
ask
75, and then you don't have to do it anymore.
That's right. That's right.
And I would have given the guy an award because he said, you're 75. So I said, yeah, you're the kind of guy that, you know, that makes me feel good. So,
Or if you have TSA pre-check. For those of us who try.
That was my next question.
Yeah. TSA pre-check, you don't have to remove your shoes. You don't have to remove your electronics or your liquids from your bag. But, you know, so the reason that we ask people to remove their shoes is because someone tried to introduce a bomb in their shoe, the shoe bomber. And then finally, just remember that TSA, the airlines, the airports, we're all working together to get you and your family to your final destination. So really pack your patience. Understand that we're working for you. We want you to have a good experience. And we're human too. Our folks, you know, they're working hard. They take their job very seriously. So work with us. If you have a concern, you can always file a complaint, but you can also take a moment to thank us if there's someone who was extra nice to you. They love to hear it. Our officers, they really care. And, you know, I travel quite a bit, and I'm always pinged for secondary inspection on my electronics. And I think about the reason is that I may travel like 4 or 5 times a week sometimes. So it's just a probability thing. Don't just assume that because you're, you know, pinged or selected for secondary screening or electronic screening or anything like that, someone has it in for you. I work for TSA and I get extra screening all the time. I'm okay with that because I arrive early. So that's the key.
Right. I would like to add on to that. You know, as a pilot, I always make sure that I say thanks for what you do. And because it really is. And we used to joke that when the TSA first came out, it was more about law enforcement and stuff. And so everybody was very serious in those days. But I tell people now, I joke with them, say, don't let management see you smiling there. But there are a lot better attitudes I find now for a lot of things. The other thing was I traveled throughout Europe in July, and then I went to India over a weekend ago. And it's interesting to see the little nuances in security over there. In Europe, they were much tighter on the bag and the, you know, with all your
size.
ice in there. And then in India, they were just crazy about the electronics. So if you even had just a plug adapter to charge, I ended up unpacking everything. And I take my whole electronic office with me when I go, so I know I'm going to get stuff. So can you talk just a little bit about TSA PreCheck versus global entry?
I don't really have purview over global entry, but I can tell you with TSA PreCheck, it's a 5-year enrollment. You get what's called a known traveler number. So that allows you to give your known traveler number to the airline when you book your flight. And then you will be given TSA PreCheck on your ticket. What that does is that you don't have to remove your shoes, and that's my favorite part of TSA PreCheck.
Me too.
You don't have to remove your liquids from your bag. You don't have to remove your electronics, and you can leave on a light outer jacket. The best part, the second best part of being in TSA PreCheck, other than not having to remove your shoes, is how quickly you go through the line. The average wait overall is about 15 minutes, even at the large airports. So that is priceless, especially if you're like at JFK or LAX or, one of the DFW, some of those big airports. TSA PreCheck is a great program to be a part of. If you fly like 3 or 4 times a year, it's definitely worth it.
It is. I'll just say a little word about global entry, because I was dumber than dirt. And when I went down there, they asked me initially, do you want to apply for global entry? Well, I didn't know anything. And what it ends up doing is if you do go out of the country, certainly frequently, but even infrequently, it's one of those things. It also, I think it's like, 85 for PreCheck, and then it's another 15 or something for global entry. So, but they coexist anyway. And when you come back in the country, it's amazing. You just go in, you do the video, put your eyes in the thing, and you go right through. The last thing you may or may not have any experience with is Clear. Do you know anything about that? Okay.
I can't speak on Clear either. No, that's not a TSA.
I'll add to that, because I had a client and he was so afraid, he wanted me to go to the airport just to walk around with him. So we started up there, and he became infatuated with Clear, and then he says, get one for Ron too. So he ended up enrolling me, and I would have never done it otherwise. But my experience is I just used it twice over this last excursion that I went on, or last flight. And what it means is you go, they just have a retina camera that they take a picture of you. So you stick your eyeballs up there. It gives you a green light. You put your ID down there, and then you go through. And then what it means is you actually cut in the TSA PreCheck line. So you don't even have to go through him anymore. They just let you through. So it's the extraordinarily easy way and carefree way to go through that. Eric, are you trying to knock on our door here?
No, I was just off, and Dieter told me to get my ugly face out of here because he didn't want to see more of the cabin background. But I love this information, and I will second Patty's deal. I think the TSA officers are getting more and more personable, and I always show up when they're not stressed. And I remember I went to last time, and I'm always stressed because I don't know what I'm doing, because we used to have the secret hole we went to. So I get to there, and the guy goes, you're retired. You're retired, aren't you? And I said, yes. Was it that obvious? He goes, no. He says, and he points at his buddy. He said, we had a side bet. He said, I saw you here last week. And to quote Ross Perot, he says, you people have so much trouble putting your stuff back together. And we saw you down in the end of the lane trying to jack it back into the bag and put your shoes on and looking around the thing. We go, no, he's a pilot. For sure. He just saw me coming. I mean, it was really funny. Really funny.
Yeah.
And his buddy knew it too. They remembered me.
And Dieter, I'll throw it out to you. Do we have any comments or questions that we want to cover before we end the thing and let Patty go?
We got a lot of hearts and a lot of support for you, Patty, because I think maybe fearful flyers, get triggered even more by security, but I think by and large are also very appreciative of the security and feeling safe. And thanks so much for the resources. I've put them all in the chat, especially the TSA Cares and the form. So I think that should be a really helpful resource for people. And I want to say that as well, because, something works when people, don't complain. And so it's often, we don't really think of the TSA of, performing that service. We think of it inconveniencing us personally, right? And not so much the bigger picture involved. And so I really appreciated hearing, that from you from a different perspective. So yeah, thank you for taking the time for that.
Awesome.
You've added a lot of class and dignity to what normally is much lower. Patty. Really, you're a great speaker, great information. I really appreciate it.
Well, I do appreciate you inviting me, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm available. If you want to do this again sometime. The one thing I did mention that I would like to discuss is our social media platforms.
Oh,
so
yeah. Okay.
Most people are on social media, but I invite you to follow me at TSA_Southwest. I cover 7 states, which include Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. So anything that happens at the airports, I'm usually involved if it's a TSA issue. But we have Ask TSA where people can actually ask us questions, and we provide responses to you in real time. So we do that via Facebook, Instagram, and the Facebook Messenger. So, we're here to help. We're really working on getting more information available in Spanish. Some of us are fluent and we're able to provide that information as well. So, the one thing I would like to leave your listeners with is don't just take information from a neighbor or a friend as truth. Do a little research and don't just think, oh, well, my neighbor said this happened, so it must happen all the time. And I used to tell people when I worked with the Immigration Service, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. When, somebody would try to scam them on something. When it comes to flying, don't fall prey or victim to the people who just like to complain about, oh, the line was out the door. Oh, this happened. Oh, they treated me so badly. I'm never going to fly again. Do your research. Yes, people were afraid during the pandemic. We had, we did have a challenge on planes with people bringing their own alcohol onto the plane, and then they were drunk and then they were acting out. So those are things that we're all working together as a community. And when I say the community, I mean the community of the airlines, the airports, TSA, our federal air marshals. We all really work to try to give travelers a good experience. So if something is working, tell us, because we want to hear it. We really want that constructive input from people, but we really want you to understand that we're all working for you. And we hope that you have a good experience when you fly.
Yeah. Years ago, I read a book called The 1 Minute Manager, and they said in there, make sure you when you catch people doing something right, let them know about it. And that's what I've tried to do as a pilot with my own fellow employees, and for organizations like TSA. And I've asked people for cards to, talk to supervisors and stuff when people do an exceptional job. So I totally agree with you. And we all like to complain because that's easy, but the harder part is to follow up with positive feedback and all that. So anyway, so thanks again, Patty. This was way beyond my expectations. So thanks a lot. And I'll thank Eric again and Dieter and all of you who keep tuning in every week and coming back for great guests like Patty. And this has been another episode of Fearless Flight Live, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Patty. Very valuable.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.